Orphanage House was the greatest privilege in my life. I went to play for Yugoslavia under 18 from Orphanage House. Pelé was always ambassador on and off the field. You could not, what he did in Mexico in the World Cup, that's just beyond belief, that header and a save of the century. Then player plays 1,000 games, then he becomes global ambassador. He's a commodity that our game worldwide should be proud of. Having Harry Williams that as a special person representing his race.
First Indigenous Australian.
21 years of age. That Harry Williams today is an artist, elite artist, most beautiful human being that you can ever come across. A call came and he said, job is yours, not to waste your time. I want soul selection. He held his cigar, he said, job is yours. When that national anthem was played, you could not be without tea. You know what Martin Luther said? I have a dream. I have the same dream now that one day generations of our children, grandchildren, our nation will be proud of one museum that would unite a nation. Harry Michaels is the God's gift. And I never ever in my life met a man who is so enthusiastic, honest, and create tears in his eyes when you bring football as football. And what a character, what a personality. Meeting these wonderful people like Harry and around Harry, and his dream is much greater than mine at the present time because he's a driving force.
Yeah, quick. You carried us on your shoulders to the World Cup. Oh, I'm so proud. So proud, boss.
There you go, you have your answer.
Yeah, look, Raleigh, whether this happens again, we don't know. I'm blessed to be here, that's all. Your legacy will live in the memory of those of us that have travelled the journey with you, those of us that have watched the journey from afar.
Zvonimir Raleigh Rasic, OAM, born 1935 and died this month, June, in 2023. He always said, Raleigh, throughout the years, there can be only one first. And he, of course, was referring to the fact that he took the first Australian football side to the World Cup in 1974. And I remember as a child how much we enjoyed it. It was immense. What an inspiration and what wonderful admiration the Australian population had for Raleigh Rasic. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, mums, dads, boys and girls, wherever you might be around the globe. We're broadcasting through Facebook and YouTube across the planet, and we thank you for that. It's morning in London. We've got a couple of people who are watching, including some wonderful supporters of Australian football. Angelos Frangopoulos, I know, listening, one of the managers that run the fabulous radio programs over there in London, and he's doing such a great job. Thank you, Angelos, for tuning in to us here in Sydney, Australia. My name is Chris Smith, and I'm knocked out about being honoured to be here and host this evening. We're here for 2 hours, and I'll be joined by my co-host too, someone who produces, presents sports programs. She's a football nut. Her name is Sam Yerman. Sam, thank you very much for being here.
I'm happy to be here. It's going to be a great show.
It will, certainly will be. She'll be very busy, so we'll get to her in just a second, and she's with our audience as well. We overuse the word legend in the world. Doesn't matter what sport it is. We overuse the word legend, but we have two authentic legends on the program who I'll cross to. They're in England as I speak, and we'll soon be going to them. A fellow by the name of Peter Reid, Manchester City and Everton superstar. A fellow who got rings rung around him by Madonna, but we'll hear about that. And Brian Robson, probably and certainly voted in 2011 as the greatest Manchester United player of all time. He is still a Manchester United ambassador, which is great. They'll be on the program. We've got a cavalcade of wonderful women on our panel too, who we'll speak with, in particular about the fact that New Zealand and Australia get to host the Women's FIFA World Cup, which is such a wonderful event. It certainly will be, especially if we cater for the world the way we did in 2000 for the Sydney Olympics. So we'll get to those women as well. But I do want to, just while we paying some tribute to Riley Razik, and we should. He's only passed away earlier this month, but I do have his wife, his widow, with us right now. And just on behalf, Deborah, thank you very much for being here. Very difficult for you, but thank you very much for sharing him with us. We so appreciated him in our lives. He was attending football matches right up until 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much for coming. There you go. Thank you very much. Sam, you're going to have a busy night, as I said.
We've got an awesome crowd here. I've got a few people that I'm going to go ask some questions. I know Hugo behind me was having a brainstorm for one of our guests. And Chris, we've got the World Cup next month. I know who I'm going for. Has to be the Matildas. Come on, the Matildas!
Yeah. They're ready to jump out of their seat, which is great. And it is an exciting time. It's a wonderfully exciting time for the region to host a FIFA Women's World Cup. We'll talk about that very, very shortly. The three women on our panel this evening, I'd like to introduce them to you. We've got Kim Coates on our first chair. Matilda number 5. What an awesome legacy. What an awesome thing to be able to tell people at a dinner table. I'm Matilda number 5. Of course, featuring in the official inaugural 1979 squad. She was also coached by Riley, which we'll talk to her about, when he went to St George in 1975, directly after the World Cup. In our centre seat, Benita Mercedes, prolific author, publisher, sports administrator, of course, as well. One of the great contributors to our game. And of course, you know, her claim to fame for someone who's been a journalist for 40 years is the fact that you brought down FIFA at a time when we needed a good clean out. Thank you very much, Benita, for coming. Mara Watts as well, another former Matilda, a junior coaching powerhouse is Mara. She's a female commentator, and I reckon you've got the best job in the world, the touring director of the Women's World Cup. Get out of here. We might have to swap jobs a little bit later.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kim, Benita and Mara. One of the factual aspects of the life of Riley Razik is that he also contributed to the Matildas being born. And Kim, you know more about that than anyone in this room. Tell us a little bit about how he drove for Australia to adopt the Matildas and a women's side.
Yes, it was back in, after the 74 Socceroos win, the 74 national championships were held for the women's soccer. During that period of time, Riley was also identified and nominated as the technical advisor for us. He was so supportive of the women's soccer back then. He managed a number of clinics for us. He ran camps. He coached us, and he was such a wonderful person.
And you individually
yes.
were coached by Riley,
yeah.
right?
I went to his camps, I went to his coaching clinics, and I never forget what he's taught me about the game of soccer, game of football as well. But he was always a very, very strong supporter of the women's game. And we can only ever be thankful for that. The Matildas today can only be thankful for people like Riley and people like Pat, the O'Connors, and the Dr. Oscar Mate, the people that really started women's football back in the early 70s, mid-70s.
They were the pioneers. Benita, I said that Riley said that, there was only one first, and he could claim taking a team into the World Cup, which was extraordinary, but his association with the sport didn't stop there. Not only as an A-League coach and certainly at the top level NSL coach, everyone was connected to Riley in many ways, weren't they?
Not only did it not stop in 1974, but it didn't start there either. I mean, he came to Australia in the early 60s. He was brought here by Footscray JUST at a time when Australian football was bringing people from overseas here to join the state leagues. We didn't have the NSL in that time. And in fact, part of all of that led to us being divorced from FIFA for a little while, which would have been a good way to stay, perhaps. But, I knew Riley when I was a kid because my own parents were involved with Footscray JUST. And on the night that he was announced as coach of the Socceroos in 1969. I have a great photo of him which he signed, and it has pride of place. But I think what's important about Riley is that everybody who met him, and because he was so generous with his time and everything, a lot of people met him. Everybody who met him felt loved by him and felt connected to him and felt as if he was the father of Australian football almost. I mean, there were many fathers before that and mothers, but he took us to the world stage for the first time. And as he said, there's only one first. Another thing I just want to share that he always said to people, and he once said that you can leave football, but football never leaves you. And I think that sort of sums up Riley as well, because it doesn't matter what was thrown at him by football, because he wasn't always treated well. The game has a way of doing that to people. He nonetheless was always there and always loved it and always gave of himself.
And of course, he developed players. And I wanted to then switch now to the great talent that we have in this region, not just in Australia. And Mara, I should go to you. You have trained, correct me if I'm wrong, 25 Matildas over that time,
Yes.
as you've been a powerhouse in junior coaching. What is the commonality between those 25? What distinguishes those 25 success stories from the other thousands that you've coached?
Well, look, I suppose, when we look at players and we, trying to develop players over time, when you look at a player tactically, technically, physically, they're all in the same page when we're talking about elite players that go on and play at the highest level. But probably the most common denominator that I notice is that people learn the soft skills. And that's
Soft skills.
Soft skills. So their ability to communicate, their emotional agility, their ability to function in a social setting. And there are players that I've seen that have the tactical, technical, physical that don't go on to that because they don't have the soft skills.
Right.
So that would be, for me, the most common denominator.
That is a wonderful insight. Kim, I want to go back to you and wind the clock back when Riley was pushing the administration at the time to bring in women's sport. There was no money there for you, for your squad.
No.
How did you make the money to support yourself to travel abroad?
Well, quite a few different ways. We had of course, we had things like car washes, Leamington Drives. Excuse me.
Right.
We also did a walkathon from the city to Cronulla.
Like a junior footy club?
Yeah, just the same. We also did a soccer-thon. Played for, I think it was over an entire weekend, non-stop soccer. We had to do whatever we could to try and help raise the money for ourselves to get there. You had to take time off work. If you had leave, you could do it. If you didn't have leave, well, you couldn't go away for that thing. But people like Riley and some of the people that were around, the administrators around in those days, they gave you the belief that you could do it. Mm. If you worked hard, apart from your soccer skills and you having your soft skills and all that, if you worked hard as a team and raised the money for the team or worked together, you could actually get some of those dreams that you've been dreaming about. And that's really something that Riley instilled. And as I said, the others that are around those days, the O'Connors, the Dr. Mates, the people that were starting to lead women's soccer in those days were the ones that gave you the belief that you could play. And your teammates gave you the belief that you could do it.
Okay, it all wasn't warm and fuzzy. It sounds very warm and fuzzy. A little bit later in the program, we're going to talk about how unwarm, unfuzzy it was and how difficult it was for so many, as has been articulated in books published, of course, by Benitez. So we'll do that very shortly. But right now, I want to get to Naples. We know what happened in the Serie A competition in Italy. We had Napoli raise the beautiful trophy, and I think it was the first time for 33 years. I think they're still partying, although it happened 3 weeks ago, which is great. I thought we would go there tonight and talk to someone who's not only eating up the excitement of Napoli winning the A Serie A, but also someone who played a significant role in Australian football, someone who was part of Adelaide United initially in 2004 as its first Chief Executive Officer. He's been a marketing director at Newcastle Jets as well. He was part of that red letter day with Frank Lowy that put, of course, the A-League on the map. And I'd like to cross now to Italy and welcome Angelo Pica. Angelo, are you there?
Yes, I am, Chris, and thank you so much. Also, a big hello to you and Samantha, and also, obviously, I'm very humbled to be part of this program together with Bonita, Kim Coates and Mara Watts, and also I think Rally Rasic is watching over us, a big loss to football, but a big hello to the audience, the live audience, and everybody right across Australia. I'm very humbled to be also involved where, you know, the likes of Brian Robson, I've got to use that word, legendary, and also Peter Reid.
Yeah, they'll both be on the program shortly. Harry Michaels, by the way, who's our captain on this broadcast, sends his love to you. He wishes you all the best. I want to go back on Raleigh and your memories of Raleigh in those early stages, especially when Adelaide United became, you know, part of the national team.
Yet obviously everybody has met Raleigh. I was very fortunate to meet Raleigh because he coached in Adelaide, and obviously he coached in Adelaide after the first qualification of the World Cup. So we had the big ticket really to win the championship. We had the best coach in Australia, and I met Raleigh on a number of times. And I think it was Mara that said, you know, like or I think it was Bonita that said, you know, we're touched by Raleigh because he made you feel like a friend immediately. You'd be having a coffee with him, and you know, he was a great talker. He'd have hundreds of stories, and obviously everybody in Adelaide has been shocked by, even though his age caught up with him, but you know, he's a legend to everybody in Australia. And obviously the 1974 World Cup, and we've got to go back to 1973 because that's when they actually qualified. They actually participated in the first World Cup in 1974, but a big loss, you know. And then, of course, I met him in Sydney. The last time I saw Raleigh was at Johnny Warren's funeral, and we shared a coffee, and he reminisced over all the players that he had in Adelaide City, the Adelaide City squad. And of course, you know, he was never short of a word talking about the 1974 World Cup. It was just absolutely a wonderful man and a genius. I think he was a genius because a lot of those players that played in that 1974 World Cup were part-timers. And just like Kim was saying before, you know, all of that hard work really makes me feel humble, but I believe it's the foundation of what we got today.
Yeah, absolutely. The world wants to host World Cups, and we're very, very lucky. And thanks to the likes of Raleigh that we're hosting the Women's FIFA World Cup. Let's talk about your city. Are they still celebrating after 33 years? It's a big, long drought.
Well, obviously, Napoli had a super year. Right, roller coaster, right up in the Serie A. They just played some fantastic, entertaining football, which is what everybody goes to the stadium to watch, Chris. You know, it's they were sort of like scoring one goal, going for the second, for third, fourth. And Arrigo Sacchi, who was the legendary coach of AC Milan during those 1980s, he mentioned that Napoli actually reminded him a replica of AC Milan. Of course, Napoli have never won a Champions League, and AC Milan have got 7. But, you know, they've just been very entertaining, great to watch live, great television. And I think they captured the whole world. Anybody that loves football would have loved what Napoli did this year.
I know the Saudis are buying up everything at the moment, but how healthy is the Italian game? I want to ask you that because we're still waiting for you to turn up at the World Cup.
Well, absolutely. I think, you know, everybody sort of like has negative thoughts about Australia, which have qualified the last 5 consecutive World Cups, Australia. 6 in all, obviously, including that 1974 World Cup. But I can tell you, with Italy not qualifying the last 2 World Cups, you know, there's, apart from the fact that the fans and everybody's disappointed, it's the amount of money that we've lost. You know, like by not qualifying is just, you know, billions of dollars, billions of euros, billions of dollars, call it what you like. But I've got to say, and we'll talk about that later on, Australia qualifying is a great opportunity to grow the game, develop the game, because, you know, they've got a mass appeal. And of course, the other end is that, you know, like if you don't qualify, well, you lose out on everything.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go to Sam in our audience. Stay there, Angelo. Sam, you've got a question for Angelo, but also you've got a question from the audience as well.
Angelo, I hope you've enjoyed your morning espresso. The women's Serie A became professional last year, and Italy actually beat the Matildas last time in the World Cup. How do you see Italian women's football progressing, and where do you see them, you know, going in this World Cup next month?
Well, look, let me say that the Matildas played so well in that World Cup. I followed every game. The Italian women's is actually growing rapidly as well. They've got the first professional league, and as we know, women's football has got this massive appeal right throughout the world. And I reckon FIFA have done a tremendous job. They've done a fantastic job to bring women's football to where it is today. In the US, very big. Australia, we've got so many players now playing in England professionally. But as far as the Italian women's, they've taken a step forward, you know, from when they beat the Matildas. Unfortunately, the Matildas lost. But, you know, the Italian women's league is growing so fast. And, you know, the attendances at the games is greater since they played well in that World Cup. And, you know, I think that there's a great future.
I definitely agree. And we've also got Adamo in the crowd. His dad is from Naples, and he's got a question for you.
Angelo, first of all, I've got to say I'm very jealous of you. You're enjoying that beautiful southern Italian sun. You got your lovely fedora on and wearing this miserable Sydney cold. But you were speaking about the 80s, and it got me reminiscing on those stories of my dad, of the glory years of Napoli, the UEFA Cup with Diego, the Scudetti. Now, it looks like they're finally back where they belong. It's party times in the streets of Naples. But then we've got Spalletti leaving. We've got a mass exodus of players now. It looks like they're going to sell the players. What's going on in Napoli at the moment?
Well, look, I think it's good media. We all know about journalism. You know, we've got to have something hot off the press and all that sort of thing. But the only loss is Luciano Spalletti. As far as the other players going, like Osimhen or Brother Scalia, or, you know, Lobotka, all of the stars of last year, Anguissa, nobody's moving right now because the president has actually put a big ticket on their names. You know, like you're talking about 150, 160 million for Osimhen if he has to move. And he wants to stay. I mean, the good news for Napoli is that everybody wants to stay because they want to replicate what happened last year. And obviously, the president has actually given an objective to the new coach, who's Rudi Garcia, who actually took over from Spalletti when Spalletti was in Roma. So if any indication that, you know, we're going to have success the following year, I think, you know, if the group stays together, we'll have a tremendous year. And as I said, the president has given him an objective to win the Champions League. So I don't think many players will leave.
Well, that's the big one missing, the one with the big ears. You were speaking about De Laurentiis. Now, they say Italian women are crazy, but De Laurentiis he seems impossible to get along with. Every time they get a manager there, they don't last very long. You being in Naples, have you had any experiences with him or what have you heard about him? Because, look, end of the day, he is the man that cashes the checks.
He is a fantastic entrepreneur. You know, like we've never been in the red. He's been there 20 years and he's brought Napoli from Serie C to B to A 3 consecutive years. And also, we've never been out of Europe. You know, we've played either Europa Liga or Champions League. So the success is there for everybody to see. He's a great guy. I mean, I met him a couple of times when I was over there as part of the sponsors guest. And he is a lovely man. But when it comes to business, you know, he's very hard. And, you know, you really can't blame him because right now, football right around the world is always short of dollars. You know, we've got the great big teams, you know, participating in the Champions League. But, you know, because the players cost so much, you know, like Ronaldo at Juventus, 100 million plus 30 million a year. You know, so I think De Laurentiis, going back to your question, it's a very good question. He is a very good businessman. And I think in football, right around the world, you need to have a mix of sport and business. And it's a big business now. Obviously, we've had the COVID, and I couldn't believe some of the players after 2020 getting sold to Real Madrid and Manchester City and Man United and, the big teams, Bayern Munich. Where does the money come from? Football is never short of money, but it also, lacks some money at times, and you've got to be very careful. Otherwise, it's a fine line between success and going bankrupt.
Great question. Thank you so much for that. That's great from our audience. Angelo, I want to ask you finally, we've got the great time zone here for our games during the Women's World Cup. We've got nighttime matches, we've got afternoon matches, both in New Zealand and Australia. But how will your city watch and monitor and follow the Italian side, the Blues? How will they follow their side in the middle of the night?
Well, it's very tough, but you always get people watching. The real fans, the people that really love the game, like we all do. It's not a problem at all. I mean, I know when I was back in Australia, I'd get up at 3, 4 in the morning to watch Manchester United, AC Milan, the Champions League. So I think a television audience is never lacking, and I think FIFA will tell you that because they generate millions and billions and billions of dollars through television. And I think the time slots, I don't think it's a problem at all.
And some late night restaurants and bars, I'd imagine too.
Oh, well, big business, Chris. I think it all goes well with that, and everybody knows that. And they do their scientific marketing research, for these types of things for television, as you would know. Obviously, you've been involved with television, but you look at the Matildas. I don't think they're going to be. I think it's got a mass appeal. I think the Matildas is a great brand. Like the Socceroos, they're the biggest brand that we have in Australia. And my beef is a little bit like we don't take opportunity of the growth and development of the game, because every time the Socceroos have played, they've done the right thing. And look, let's look at the last World Cup. Nobody gave Graham Arnold the chance. Prior to qualification, he did the impossible. He qualified, and then they thought, yeah, maybe they'll do this and that and the other. They had an extraordinary performance. And what I want to say is that these are the types of things that we need to take advantage of to develop the game, grow the membership, grow the fan base, go and get that market, because we have a ready-made market. When the Matildas play, 80,000 people turn up. I've heard 40,000. I stay in touch with coaches and players that, in Australia. I mean, what do we do with that? What are we going to do after the Matildas World Cup? Do we have a program? Do we have a calendar of things to do to grow the business, to grow the fan base, the membership, and to tap into this market that we already have? Because we know they turn up at the games when Matilda's playing, when the Socceroos play. What do we do with that, Chris? Do we actually tap into that market and want to bring it to the A-League, to the NPL? As a marketing person, as a marketing passionate, I believe this is where we need to work a little bit better.
Yep.
May God bless all of those people that work, all of those volunteers that, work around the game. Right now with the Matildas, I'm sure there is an exodus, so many people involved with this World Cup. May God bless them. But let's get ready for the post-World Cup.
Yeah, let's use the opportunity. Well said. Angelo Picker, I'll let you go to sleep. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Great to be on the show.
Good on you.
Thank you. Bye.
Angelo Picker, fantastic, from Italy, from Naples. And of course, they're still celebrating, no doubt, after winning the Serie A for the first time in 33 years. I want to go back to our panel, if I may. Benita, I mentioned that to Kim there that we had to have walkathons, we have to have car washes and all that kind of stuff in the beginning. But it also has been a tough time, even in latter decades, for some women and the way they're treated by some fans and also by men in the game.
Yep. And before I get right into that question, I want to pick up on something Angelo said, where I totally disagree with him, where he said it's thanks to FIFA that women's football is doing so well. No, it's not thanks to FIFA. You've only got to talk to someone like Kim and the other 1975ers and all the women who have played women's football over the years, up until relatively recently. It's been really, really tough. Let's not forget that to this day, FIFA is still resisting having a television deal for some of the countries to watch this World Cup. It's 2023. You can't be what you can't see. So don't tell me that FIFA's done all of this. What has fundamentally driven the growth of women's football is something called Title IX in the United States of America. Because what that meant was that every woman or every girl who played sport had to have equal money spent on her as a child as every boy. It's one of the best things that the United States has done, and that's why you get so many great women's sports people in America who are also well educated, because it goes right through to their college and university system. Because America has really adopted soccer, as they call it, that has then caught on for the rest of the world culturally. And that's what's driven the growth. Then, otherwise we wouldn't have stories in 1975. Let's not forget, in 1975 was the International Year of Women, United Nations International Year of the Women, yet our women had to go on Lamington drives and walkathons and go into pubs and throw a bucket around to try and get some money. Even as far back as 1995, 1999, the Matildas were still paying for a lot of their own costs.
Yeah. And the way they were treated, I was going to bring that up because a lot of people watching would not know what they had to endure.
Well, getting to your question, I mean, I think also what women's football is benefiting from now, and it's fantastic to see so many young women able to get great careers overseas, and also the A-League women developing the way it is. But what women's football is benefiting from also is a greater world movement around women's rights and gender equality, the whole Me Too thing, which leads me to, it's not just about issues on the field, but off the field as well. I've worked in football and experienced it. There's extraordinary sexism, and not just from the men, from some of the other women. But one of the books that we're publishing next month is actually called, I don't know whether you can get a close-up of this, it's a quote. The author, Sally Friedman, is someone who's worked in Australia, New Zealand and for UEFA. And she had someone say to her once, quote, "Get your tits off for the lads, out for the lads." And her book sort of chronicles quite bravely the things, both the overt or the implicit and explicit sexism shown towards her in trying to be professional about her job.
Kim, did that happen to you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In the early days, it was quite often, show us your tits, or get back in the kitchen, what do you think you're doing on football field? Women don't play football. It was, and I don't think it was just in football either, it's women's sport in general. I think they're the things that women athletes have had to put up with for as long as I've been around.
Yeah.
And it's...
Can I play a game of kick and giggle?
Oh yes, always kick and giggle. You didn't do anything else but kick and giggle. You didn't know how to play football.
Yeah.
And it was a few
But to
times...
see the women today, the only morons who would say something like that are not to even be listened to, are they?
Oh, you don't give them any oxygen. It's unfortunate, but those morons are at the junior level and at the grassroots level. And that's where we really got to stamp it out, because that's hurting the aspirations of these young women that are going to try and come through to the Matildas.
Exactly. And this is the springboard for all of that. I do have to go to England because I've got some limited time on our streaming service, if I may. Our second guest this evening from abroad has had a long and successful playing and managing career. He played the majority of his games with Bolton Wanderers, Everton, QPR and Manchester City. No less than 13 games for England. In 1990, he became a manager with Manchester City. He also spent 5 years at Sunderland, then with the England under-21s, which he coaching also in Thailand and also India. Ladies and gentlemen in our audience, would you please welcome from Bolton, England, in the early hours of the morning, Peter Reid. Peter, thank you very much for joining us on the ball.
My pleasure.
Okay, it's terrific to have you here, but I've got to start with something that might be a little embarrassing. The 1986 World Cup, you were marking up against the golden boy, Maradona, and Diogo did a few moves that sort of put you back in your place. Now, I don't want to embarrass you, Peter, but maybe you could tell the story better than I could.
No one's asked me about that before, so that's unique, really. He was just a top player, as we all know, and it was a wee bit, without making excuses, it was a wee bit hot for us English lads over in Mexico City in '86, but we just come up against a player on his day who was brilliant, and he wasn't bad with his hands either.
Yeah, that's very true. But on his feet, was he as fast as what we could see?
No, I was slow.
But you were fourth behind Maradona in one of those years, being the greatest footballer in the world. That's a great credit to you. Fourth behind Maradona is credible.
Yeah, I think Platini and Elchiar, it must have been a bad year for football that year when I come forward. I was involved in a really good Everton side after overcoming some injuries at Bolton Wanderers when I was a kid. And it's amazing. I just heard you before saying that Brian Robson is on later on. Back in the day when football... When I played, I was at Bolton Wanderers as a kid. Brian Robson was at West Brom. Ray Wilkins, the late Ray Wilkins, was at Chelsea. And Glenn Hoddle was at Tottenham. We all played in the second tier of English football because there was no freedom of contract then. So it's amazing how the game's changed in 40-odd years.
Yeah, you were Player of the Year in 1985. You talk about the injuries. This game enhances injuries more than most, even though it's not supposed to be a contact sport. But tell us, how did you get through 1985 unscathed? Because you would have to have been very consistent that year to win the Player of the Year award.
Well, I'd done my cruciate ligaments back in the day. Funny enough, playing for Bolton against Everton, and I was out a year out of my career. Broke my kneecap, broke my leg, had cartilages. So it was really difficult. But I had a really good physio, a lad called Jim Hedridge, who went to Manchester United and passed away. But he helped me through my career. He learnt me how to work in the gymnasium, and it was fantastic. So from a kid who was at Highton Boys, which is just outside Liverpool, funny enough, a lad called Frank Pimlett went over to Australia and had a great career, and he was my midfield partner. So if Frank's watching, how are you doing, mate?
Geez, you're one of the only Englishmen that can say mate in the right tone. Well done. You're also a great advertisement, Peter Reid, a great advertisement for the promotion and relegation system, because you played in sides that were promoted. That must have been a great feeling in itself.
Oh yeah, listen, when you play football, you're blessed. I mean, I was dead lucky as a kid, the council house lad. You know, kicking the ball in the streets. I played for my country. I won things. But, you know, football's, for me, I like my cricket, but football's the greatest sport in the world. And to win things, to win promotions, to win trophies, to play for your country, let me tell you, it doesn't get any better than that. And I know the lads now get a right few quid, but if I could turn the clock back and play a game of footy again, to the ultimate, I'd love it.
You must have witnessed, though, so many heartbreaking losses to the English side. We know all about them. We won't have to go through page for page, but what was the common thread through all of those choking incidents that the English side went through, do you think? Was it just once they started choking, they thought about not winning a game, or did it just compound on itself? How did all of those games play out the way they did?
Listen, you play against teams that are good. You know, it's not choking. I mean, when Italy beat us in the European nations, they were the better side on the day. It's not choking. Sometimes you got to hold your hand up and say, hey, listen, we got beat by a better side. In 1966, we won it. We won the World Cup. And every team since then has tried. Brian Robson played in numerous games, but we found a team that was better on the day. that happens in football. That happens in sport.
Yeah.
You've just got to keep going and try and win it.
I want to talk about managing a team. We've now got our own Ange Postecoglou starting at Tottenham in 6 days' time. It is really the big league for an Australian coach for the very first time in our game. This is the first to do it. Is he punching above his weight? How would he go?
Listen, when he come to he got the job at Celtic, and you know it's Celtic and predominantly Rangers up in Scotland. But I think in the manner that I've seen his team play, I think he'll be a success at Tottenham. I think his teams express themselves in an attacking way, but he's not daft. He knows that he's got to win football matches, and when you look at his record, he wins football matches, and I think he'll do it at Tottenham. I think he's a great addition to the English Premier League, and I think Tottenham will go from strength to strength. So I'm all for him. I like the way his team plays, but Man City at the moment are a street ahead of anybody over here in England. So it's a big challenge, and I've just got to say, my team, I've got my blue shirt on. My team are having a nightmare at the moment, so it's hard for me to talk about Everton are having we're hopeless at the minute. It's killing me.
That's true. He's had scrutiny on himself, Ange. He had it in Australia. It's only local, of course. He had it in Japan. He's had it in Scotland. But the scrutiny that he will undergo as a coach of a Premier League side is like nothing else, as you know only too well. What's your advice to him?
No, I mean, hey, listen, I know what you're saying about the English Premier League, but if you've managed in Glasgow Celtic up there, it doesn't get, let me tell you, it doesn't get any bigger than that. He will handle the Premier. I think he'll enjoy it. I think he's, when I see him, I've never met him. When I see him on interviews, I get a feeling of a man with extreme confidence of his own ability and his players. I think he'll be all right. I think he'll handle pressure. Listen, pressure's what you put on yourself.
Yeah.
And we know we've got to win games as football managers, or we get the sack. But you've got to enjoy that. You've got to enjoy working with young players, and I think he embraces that.
Well, that's interesting. When I was looking at your background as a manager and the way you taught your players to play, I saw a lot of synchronicity with Ange Postecoglou in that, it's about keeping possession, it's about encouraging attack and entertaining. You coached teams to entertain. Was it about entertaining the fans, or was that the way that you thought that they would go about winning?
Ooh, I was brought up to do that. The most important thing on the football pitch is the football. You've got to take care of the football. And when you lose it, you've got to get it back as soon as you can. That, to me, will never change. You know what I mean? I think it's a basic. And when I was manager of Man City and at Sunderland, at 7 years, you got that wrong. It wasn't 5. It was 7 years, 7.5 years. I really enjoyed it, and I wanted my teams to entertain. I think that's part and parcel of it. But I like winning games. So if I had to defend, I'd park the bus.
Yes, as most coaches, as most managers will say. I could only feel sorry for you when you took over Man City, because one, it's Man City, but two, you were a caretaker coach. Nothing was expected of you, but tell that to the Man City fans. They expected you to win. What was that like?
Well, I took over from Howard Kendall, who moved back to Everton back in the day. And obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson was the manager of Manchester United. So it was tough. It was tough, I've got to say. But I think my first season, we finished higher than Manchester United. So that was the first time since till Mancini won the Premiership. So I did okay, but it was certainly a very, very difficult job, and it's a different Manchester City now. But what I've got to say about Manchester City, when I go to watch him, I watched him against Arsenal, Liverpool, and I was at the Real Madrid game. It's still got the same soul. Still got the same soul. But what a squad of players Pep Guardiola's got there. Absolutely outstanding. And I'm looking forward to the next Premiership. I'm looking forward to watching the Women's World Cup down in New Zealand and Australia. That should be fantastic. I'm looking forward to watching the Ashes because we're one down and I love me cricket. So I hope we can get back. I'm sure we can against you. But it's certainly nice speaking to all of Australia, Sydney, and my condolences to Radek, the coach of Australia in 1974. I think it was the Germany World Cup.
Raleigh Rasic.
That was brilliant, by the way. And Steve Darby, who was a good mate of mine, tells me all about it. I went down to Melbourne and Sydney with Everton in '87 and New Zealand. So that was a great experience. I think we played against the Australian national team in Melbourne way back.
You did. I want to ask you about coming back to Australia. I'll do that in a second. I want to hand over to my co-host, if I may, Peter. Sam, you've got a question?
No, I'm not speaking to her. She's a Liverpudlian.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Oh,
she is.
Cancel it.
No. This is a confronting program. This is controversial. We want to do this.
Peter, I hope you've managed to wake up since we last spoke. I know it's pretty early. As you mentioned,
I had too many last night.
As you mentioned, I am a Liverpool supporter. Sorry about that. Wasn't sorry to see Everton almost get relegated last season. But touching on that, you were a part of great Everton teams who won titles and trophies. How can they get back to that success?
I'll let you into a secret, Sam. I used to stand on the Kop when I was a young lad and I supported the other lot across the park.
Really?
But it's going to take us a few years. I mean, I don't like fighting relegation. We've done it too many times recently. Sean Dyche, I'm a great believer in, but he needs time. He needs time to mould the team together, to work in the transfer market, and hopefully we can bring some kids through. But it's not a quick fix for Evertonians. I'm sorry, it's going to take time. But you've always got to have hope.
What made you change sides, just quietly? Why'd you go to Everton?
I played once you put that blue shirt on and play for Everton, it gets into your blood.
Mm-hmm.
And
no going back.
Right.
Exactly. Peter, could I ask you some questions about the women's game? You're going to lose the Ashes, we know that, but maybe the women's game, maybe the women could make up for your terrible English cricket side and do very well at the Women's World Cup, do you think?
Listen, if you read into the history of the women's game in England, it was massive, in the early 1920s, 1930s, massive crowds. And it's just got back again because of the success in the Europeans. I mean, we're getting full houses now to watch the ladies play, and it's fantastic. And there's a big confidence about us going down there and doing really, really well. You can't say you're going to win it, but I think the ladies, the English ladies, they're one of the favourites, and there's a real big groundswell now about ladies football, and it's fantastic to see.
So I've done some calculations. You're in Group D, we're in Group B. So if we come second in Group B, we play England if you emerge from Group D the way I think you're going to emerge from Group D. You've done that mathematics as well, have you?
I just had a look at it, and I think Ireland are in your group as well, and I've got a bit of Irish blood in me, like all Scousers have. So it's going to be tough, but it would be really interesting. Hey, listen, when England play Australia in anything, it's a massive one, isn't it? It's absolutely massive one. So I really look forward to that.
Let me digress and turn this into a cricket show just for 1 minute. What the hell happened to Bazball?
Listen, I think we're getting full houses watching cricket.
But you lost.
Cricket, listen, but he declared, tried to get a couple of wickets. It's entertaining. And by the way, I think we'll do you in the long run. There's 4 more tests to go. 4 more tests to go. I won't be at Lord's. I'll be at Old Trafford, the Oval. And I'm really looking forward to it. Australia, a magnificent team. But we're out there and we're fighting.
Oh, that pitch was awful. But anyway.
Bazball's great. Bazball's great.
A flag waver for Bazball. Let's go back to what we're here for. Is it true that you're still helping Plymouth? You're still helping in terms of their players?
No. I mean, that was they were in a financial, a dire financial situation. I did help them out. They've got promotion this year. I still look at all my old clubs. And the lad Steve Schumacher, who's the coach there, the manager, he was brought up at Everton. He's done an absolutely magnificent job there. And it's a part of England, just on the border there, Devon, Cornwall, that has got a massive fan base. And it's a great football club. I'm delighted they're doing well.
Now, tell me, a little birdie told me that you might be making your way to Australia for a speaking tour. Maybe I'm speaking out of school, so you can say no way. But the information I've got is that you are going to the western part of our country on a speaking tour. Is that right?
Well, no, my cousin Mark, he lives over in Perth, and I've got a few friends who are living down there. Obviously, the great Mick Lyons, who's in England at the moment, is making his way back down to Perth soon. I've caught up with him a couple of times, but hopefully we'll get something sorted out, and I'll go over to the Western Australia, to Perth, and maybe jump on a flight over to Sydney and enjoy Sydney again.
Yeah, exactly. I can't thank you enough for all of this. Will you be staying up late at night to watch the games in the Women's World Cup?
Yes, because to be fair, I got up early this morning for this show after a few drinks last night, but I will definitely partake in watching the Women's World Cup. Come on, England.
Yay, come on, England. We've been discussing here about how you take this opportunity of hosting a World Cup and make it work for you as a country, because so many that come out of an Olympic Games or a World Cup have a hangover after that. How do we go about doing that? How do we promote the game? What's the plan of attack, do you think, for our administrators after we host this World Cup?
I really think you just enjoy it. You know, I think people go on talk about negatives. I always talk about positives. It's down in New Zealand, Australia. It's brilliant for that part of the world. I think it will be an outstanding World Cup. We've got a chance, which we'll all be watching in England, and we'll embrace it. We'll embrace it. And I think the world will as well. I think women's football now has got its way back to where it always should have been, high on the agenda.
Very well said. It's a fabulous thing to have you on this program on The Ball Live. We cannot thank you enough. And all the very best, except in the Ashes, all the very best for your women's side in the World Cup. Fabulous. Thank you, Peter Reid.
Hey, listen, I'll be back on when we do it in the Ashes and when we win the Women's World Cup. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
I'll buy you a pint. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. Good on you. Thank you. Please, yes.
Take care, everyone.
Isn't it amazing that even when you talk to people on the other side of the globe, that there are connections to your own venue, to your own team, to your own football? And this is exactly what we're finding throughout the program. There's a theme in all of this, that it is a world game, but the world is a very small place in many ways. And even in this room, it's a very small place, because I want to go to Sam now. We believe in nepotism on this program, don't we, Sam?
Yeah, you spoke to him about Ange Postecoglou, who I like to call the Aussie GOAT. Someone who knows him very well, played under him at Brisbane Roar and the Socceroos, is actually my brother, Matt Yerman. Thank you.
Yes, round of applause for Matt. Socceroo.
Andrew's obviously been appointed to Tottenham recently. How happy are you to hear the news, and how great is it for Australian football?
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like I'm pretty lucky to have played under Ange a few times with Brisbane and also Young Socceroos and Socceroos. So a few times, and for me it was really awesome to see him just construct these teams how he did and have the success that he has. And for me, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I can see Spurs winning in the next 2-3 years. I don't know why, but I just got this belief about him, and seeing close up what he does, and for me, I feel like he's going to do something special there, and I think that's going to be great for Australian football in general.
I think we'll all be cheering on Tottenham, and something a lot of people don't know is the opportunity Ange gave you before the World Cup. Tell everyone about that. How special was that?
Yeah, it was very special to me. Obviously, I was playing Korea around that time. The Socceroos didn't qualify directly, which indirectly helped me have a chance. And he gave me my shot to come in. And you don't really speak to Ange too much. It's true what they say. He keeps his distance from his players, but. For me, I had one conversation with him, and he sort of said to me, at training, you can play in the friendly games, get caught up for the friendly games, but you get caught up for these games, and these are the ones that matter, and you sort of show that you deserve to be if you do well, So for me, it was an interesting conversation. I remember it very, very till today. I still remember that conversation, and. We qualified, and not long after he was off to Japan, so we didn't get to have that the World Cup with him. But for me, I still have great memories with him, and I wish him all the best.
And Matt actually signed with Macarthur in the A-League yesterday. Chris was going to mention something.
I was going to say, you're playing for Macarthur. We know that Macarthur didn't do too well in that last season. Like, who signs with the bottom dwellers unless something pulls you over there, like a big wad of money, or was it the coach?
Yeah, no, obviously Emile's got I've worked with him actually in the Socceroos. He was a bit of a mentor back then, but obviously had a great career as well, and I'm excited to be working with him, and I think the team's actually got a great squad on paper, so hopefully we can turn around where they came this year, and hopefully win something in the season coming, and they're also in Asia as well, so that's something to look forward to for a new club like them.
Traffic's a little bit worse in Sydney than it is in Newcastle. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, just a bit, yeah. But I'm from here, so that's all right.
Matt, thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate it. There you go. A little bit of nepotism. Also a former Socceroo, which is great. We're going to get to Brian Robson in just a second. I want to go to you, if I may, Mara. You talk about Peter Reid and the way he gives his players the freedom to express themselves, and he believes in entertaining and the fact that they attack until it's time to defend.
Of course.
What are your thoughts on the way the game is developing in Australia, the men's game and the women's game? We're starting to get a reputation for the attacking football we play, aren't we?
I think things have changed. I think we've gone through, with coach education, ebbs and flows, let's say, where we've gone from playing out from the back and being caught in with a high press. That has now changed, and we're starting to attack, which is fantastic to see. And we've certainly got some speed up front now, which we probably haven't done in the men's game and the women's game in the past, with Viduka, for example, who was very traditional forward, just holding the ball up.
Yep.
Look, I think we're in a position where we've got some speed up front, which we haven't had in the past with our women's teams. I mean, Katie Gill has scored, 43 goals for Australia. But she certainly didn't have the speed, and she was a traditional forward, sitting up front and holding the ball up and getting herself in good positions. But we've got more speed now with Sam Kerr and with Caitlin Ford, of course, and so it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I'd bring you in on that because that's what the fans want to see. That's why this World Cup will be so good.
Absolutely. We don't win games on possession. Yeah. We win games by scoring goals, and the statistics show that most goals are scored within 3 to 4 passes, not 50 passes before we score goals.
I'll come back to you ladies to talk a little bit further about what we can expect on the pitch during this Women's World Cup a little bit later in the show. But we've got a special guest. Let's add special on special, maybe cubed. He is a living legend of the world game in so many ways. An Englishman with an extraordinary highlights reel. When you do a little bit of research on this fellow and you start to look at the highlights reel, you see him being mobbed on multiple occasions, and there aren't many players around the world in that era in particular who could say that they were mobbed as much as he was. He is the longest serving captain in Manchester United's history. He won 2 Premier League medals, 3 FA Cups, 1 Football League Cup, 2 FA Charity Shields and a European Winners' Cup. Can I just say, for you younger viewers who don't know much about my special guest, think about how that would translate with the team out of England today. In August 2011, he was voted as the greatest ever Manchester United player in a poll of the club's former players, which is quite something. 90 caps for his country, 65 as captain, and 26 goals in that mix as well. He's got an extensive record as a manager. I won't go into that. There's not enough time. Let's grab him right now. From his home in Manchester, where else? Captain Marvel, welcome to On the Ball. Brian Robson, come in.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Really nice to be on the show. Looking forward to, the next 45 minutes, 1 hour.
I'm thinking tonight quite often when we talk about the health of the game worldwide and the health of the game in Australia, I'm thinking about 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 7-year-old children who play the game. And I remember when the World Cup was won by England, you were 9 years of age. Do you still remember that period, and do you remember the impact that England's victory had on the country?
Well, what I can say is the impact it had on me, because Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton, when I saw them play in that game, it was just amazing. And then when I look back at the game years later, I mean, Bobby Moore was absolutely outstanding in that game. But Bobby Charlton, obviously, me joining Manchester United, he had a big impact on me as well, as a person and as a player, because they were both just terrific players. And England are a really good team at this moment of time, but you've got to go back to that and that year. And when we won the World Cup, I mean, everybody wants to win the World Cup, but it was just an amazing time for everybody in England in '66.
But Brian, did that victory set up your own dreams?
Yeah, I had dreams of trying to win the World Cup. The closest I got, but I got injured in the second game, was in 1990, when we were probably the best team I'd played for at that time. Got injured. We got beat off the Germans in the semi-final on a penalty shootout. I think if we could have got past Germany in that, we could have went on to win the World Cup, because Gascoigne at that time was a fantastic player. And we had a really good team at that time. So that was our best opportunity to win the World Cup again. I do believe that this set of players that we've got now, I think we could go on in the next World Cup and get really close to winning it again.
I get a feeling, the way you describe your moments in the World Cup in that year, that there's a sense of bitterness, a sense of hurt from that time, that experience?
I know, for me, in 1982, when I scored the quickest goal in World Cup history at that time, we were a good team then. The format of the competition, we didn't get beat in 5 games, but we got knocked out of the World Cup. But then in '86, I dislocated my shoulder in the second game. So that was me finished in the World Cup again. So then in 1990, we just won the FA Cup final. And I went into that competition feeling really fit and good in myself. And I saw the team around me and I thought, wow, we've got a great chance of winning the World Cup this year. So to snap my Achilles tendon in the second game, that was the most devastating part of my career. You know, and everything I look back on, like it was just so lucky to have the career that I had. But I've got to say that was the most disappointing time of my career when I snapped my Achilles, and that took me out to the World Cup again.
You can't speak with Brian Robson, OBE, without talking about the quickest goal of all time. 27 seconds. It turned out to be the fourth quickest. You were God at that point. To score in a World Cup game after 27 seconds, you jumped into the arms of Terry Butcher, but you also jumped into the hearts and minds of every English person watching. What a moment. How do you ever describe that years on?
No, well, it was amazing how that came round, because on the other side of the pitch, we were taking long throw-ins from Mick Mills, who was captain at the time, and Terry Butcher and Paul Mariner had to flick the ball on, and I had to get on the end of, the flick on if they won the header. And so as we were walking off the training pitch when we'd been practicing, Stevie Coppell was sitting with Ray Wilkins and they were having a drink, and Stevie Coppell went, Don Howe, who was the coach at the time, he went, Don, I can throw it as far as Mick, you know. And anyway, Stevie Coppell just got the ball and he went, well, I threw the ball right into the 6-yard box. And we went, yeah, okay, we don't need to practice. We know what we're doing. Paul and Terry, you try and flick it on, and Brian, you get on the second ball. And that's how that came about. So we didn't even practice it. We just said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And so it was amazing at that time, because it wasn't just about scoring the quickest goal. I got another goal. We beat France 3-1, who were one of the favourites to win the competition that year. So we did that. And then I got a phone call at 2 o'clock that morning that my wife had my second daughter. And so for me, I always say I scored a hat-trick that day.
Yes, but your fast goal probably pushed her into labour, did it not?
Denise said she thought it had a big factor in that. And then I've got to tell everybody over there. So that daughter married an Aussie boy from Adelaide, and she lives in Adelaide now. Oh. So I saw her 15 years ago.
Wow. Another connection from the other side of the world. Take us back to when you were an apprentice. What was it, £5 a week? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, when we said £5 a week, and then the next year it was £8 a week, but they did actually pay about £30 for your lodging. So I stayed with a family. The club paid for that, so they give you a breakfast and evening meal, and then when you were in training, you'd get your food at the training ground. So that's the way it worked in those days. And when we talk about the money that the players earn in today's game, I have no problem with that, because if people want to watch TV and the Sky money and all that sort of thing, good luck to the players. If they're entertaining people and you're enjoying what you're watching, then good luck to them.
Let me talk about money. Let me talk about the money that's being spent now by Saudi countries. The Arabs seem to be infatuated not just with golf, but also with football. We're talking billions, and we're talking billions on the likes of Ronaldo and Messi. We're talking money for football clubs, as we know. Does that sit okay with you that now the power is shifting and the influence is starting to shift to another continent?
Look, you can't change it, and it is the way it is. You know, people who have always had to work really hard to earn a living and live your life, it's hard to understand. And I always think, you know, with the NHS now, that type of thing, and what they get paid, and they're saving people's lives. So then to go to a sportsman and they get paid what they get paid, you look at it and you go, is that really fair? But you can't change that. That's the way life is. You know, but sometimes I do look, and look, I was really lucky to be a footballer. That's what I wanted to do. That's where I wanted to earn my living. And I was fortunate enough to achieve that. So you do look back though, and you go, how fortunate are you to be able to do what you did?
Okay, however, what we've seen them do in golf is to take over the best players, reschedule tournaments that clash with the wonderful traditional tournaments that we're used to, especially through the United States. That could still happen with the influence and power that the Saudi leagues are starting to wield, and we could get to a situation where players have to choose one or the other and choose to go to the Middle East. That could happen down the track. Would you be comfortable with that?
Well, I think what happens there is, you know, you have your own principles and you stick by your principles. Now, you know, some people will just stay with a club or with a tradition, and they will do that. Other people will just go for money. And I think that's always going to be the same in life, that certain people, you know, if the money's there, you'll go for the money, and principles go out of the window. You're not going to change that. I don't knock anybody for doing that, but it's insane that I think principles have definitely got to still be within you.
I wanted to talk about our own Ange Postecoglou. As you would understand, we are so proud of the fact that he shifted from the Scottish environment now to the cauldron, the scrutinised cauldron of the Premier League, managing Tottenham. Alan Brazel once said that this has got to be a wind-up in reference to Ange Postecoglou. Where do they come up with these guys from? He, of course, won with Celtic. He's eaten humble pie since. Were you on Alan's team when you were seeing the rise and rise of Ange? And what do you think of his elevation now to Tottenham?
Sorry, Alan who?
Perfect answer.
No, look, yeah, you know, for me, Ange, is what a career he's had. When you look, Brisbane, Melbourne, then the Aussie team, really successful. Then going to Japan, going to Scotland. You've got to say his record is very, very good. If you ever speak to a few players who have played under him, they all have a good respect for him and what he's achieved. I think they like his man management style. So he's probably, you know, from where he's come from and where he's gone through, and really brave. I think now he maybe deserves a chance with a top team like Tottenham, one of the biggest clubs in Europe. It'll be really interesting to see what he does. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I hope he does hopeless, because I want to see Man United at the top, not Tottenham.
However, how do you think he will go?
I think he'll do from the people I've spoke to in the game who know the guy, I've never met him, but they say, you know, he's got a lot of respect from the players, and I think he'll do really well for Tottenham. You know, but that's even just going off people who support Celtic, and I've spoke to. They say that the lads up there really liked him.
I want to hand you over to Sam Yerman, my co-host, if I may. Brian Robson. Sam?
Brian, we've got Mark in the crowd who actually, apparently you know him. He's got a question for you. He wouldn't tell the audience what it was, so it's a surprise.
Morning, Brian. Pleased to see you.
Morning, Mark. Evening, Mark.
Yeah, evening. I'd just like to go back to the beginning of the season. Like, we were written off as Manchester United, and we've had a great season in my eyes and all Manchester United fans. We've got Erik ten Hag now, and we've got a great group of players there. We've got more players coming in, I believe. We're looking at these new owners coming in, which is going to be massive as regards with the money, what's going to go into the club. How do you see, as an ambassador and an ex-player, how do you see Manchester United going forward with all this influence? You've got the likes of Man City, you've got the likes of Newcastle, and now Manchester United. So 3 of the biggest guns in the Premier League. How do you see the future going with the money in the game, and especially for Manchester United?
Well, Mark, I know that I know you really well, and I'm just letting everybody know that I do know him really well.
Oh, he's a plant. Is he plant? Is he one of your plants, Brian?
I can't see you in Manchester, so I had to come here to see you.
No, but look, you know, the thing is what you want to achieve and where you want to be. And everybody looks at Manchester City, and especially after the season that they had last year, everybody's gone, well, they've set the standards, the owners have set the standards, and so unfortunately, you know, is it going to be the money people who dictate this of how far and how good you can be? But I've got to say that I think Ten Hag did a great job last year. You know, to win our first trophy for 6 years, to get us into the Champions League again from where we were the year before. If we do get an owner who is like the Manchester City owners, the Newcastle United owners, you see what they've done and achieved. Yeah, a lot of people in the world will go, oh, well, you're just buying success. But it's not as easy as that. If you've got a lot of money, you have to invest that really well to still go on and achieve things in the game. And so no matter who takes over the club, or if the Glazers don't sell the club, we've still got to work on trying to be better next year to compete against Manchester City.
Which we will do, no problem. We'll be back to our winning ways, I'm sure.
I think we will, but what we have to do, we have to sort the ownership out so then we can move forward and try and improve on last year. So then, you know, the season's going to come round very quickly. And we need to bring players on board to improve us once again to where Ten Hag has brought us from.
But Brian, I would have thought if anyone's going to know who's about to own Manchester United, it's the greatest Manchester United player of all time. Who's about to buy them?
I don't know, and that's why you're a presenter, because you ask a question like that. Look, even as an ambassador, I don't know. Look, I just hope the club make the right decision to take our football club forward, because Manchester United can't be sort of like not in the Champions League, cannot be not winning trophies year in, year out. We need to be really successful. And to have that, you need a stable background of where you can move forward.
I would say another 2 seasons and we're going to be right back up there.
Yeah.
It's going to take a couple, but we're there already.
Thank you very much for the
That's
question.
what we need. We need positive thinking.
Positive thinking.
Always, Brian.
You've just mentioned positive thinking. That instantly tells me a lot about what I've read about you when you were playing. And is it true that the writers, the English writers, got this right? That when you were going through your playing days, you were low in confidence? How does the greatest player for Manchester United ever be low on confidence and get through that?
No, those reporters were rubbish. They're just writing the wrong material. I was never low on confidence. But what I have said, though, is that when people say they never get nervous, look at before every game, I'd get a little bit of butterflies in my stomach. But as soon as that whistle went and the game kicks off, now all those nerves go out your body and you just concentrate on the game. And I wasn't nervous like that. And the reason why I know, Chris, that I wasn't nervous is because I could sleep for fun. I mean, before a game, I could sleep 10, 12 hours before every game, no matter how important it was.
Wow. I also want to ask you about what we're going to experience in July and August. We're very, very excited. We're thrilled about what's going to unravel, what's going to excite us on the pitch with the Women's World Cup. Will you be watching? Have you been watching the women's game closely?
Yeah, I do. Since, the game came round and then, the Premiership clubs all took women on board. But then, obviously, the success of England, in the Euros, it's just multitude and multitude. Yeah, as far as the ladies' game is concerned. I know that Australia have got the World Cup coming up in July. I know Australia, they're unbelievable with the sport, love the sport. And the cricket teams and all that, the rugby, everybody's really strong down there. And so it'll be great for the country, the impact that a World Cup has, everything. And I know that the USA, England are pretty good at this moment of time with the ladies' teams. But I never write off Australia when it comes to sport, because I know how passionate everybody is down there as far as the sport is concerned. So I'm sure it'll be a great success.
Yeah, I wonder the impact it will have on young kids. We go back to that first question, one of those first questions I asked you. When you were 9 years of age, you watched England, you watched Bobby Charlton win the World Cup for England and the impact it had on you personally. What impact do you think this could have on kids playing the game now or kids who are considering playing the game?
Well, I always say what you have to do is enjoy what you want to achieve. And so in whatever sport it is, work hard, listen to your coaches, listen to your parents, but you have to enjoy what you're doing. And if you enjoy what you're doing, then, you'll achieve more. And that's what I say. Practice, whether you're by yourself, you can practice, all that type of thing is really important. But for the country, it's like I'm saying, Australia with cricket, with rugby, they've always been right up there as probably the best. And that's why you respect them for that. Football, they've nearly achieved with the men's team. I mean, getting to World Cup finals and getting to quarterfinals, they've achieved that. So it's that next step. And And that's what people have always got to believe in, you know, going that next step.
What about your life personally? You're a global ambassador for Manchester United. What does that mean? And does it get you flying around the world? And will you come to Australia soon?
Well, I was in Australia last year, but honestly, your weather is getting worse. Our weather in England is getting better, and your weather is getting worse.
You don't make a very good weather presenter.
No. So, yeah, last year we came down and we played a few games, you know, in Perth and Melbourne. This year we're going off to America this year. But no, look at my ambassador role. I love it. That's why I went away from management, because I really enjoyed management, but there was certain roles which I didn't particularly like. I love training with the players, the camaraderie and everything that goes around being a manager. Well, it was fantastic. But then I moved on when I had grandchildren, when you want to go on holiday rather than the football world tells you when you can go on holiday, and it's only maybe 3-4 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
So you make your own decisions in the role that I do with Manchester United now.
What's more difficult, playing for Manchester United or being a manager of another team against Manchester United?
I know I loved, when I was a manager, I really enjoyed it. Going back to play against Manchester United, you can't believe how much you want to win. Which Man United fans are not going to love me for saying that. But yeah, of course you do. You go back, you're doing a job and you want to be the best. And so it's a difficult one. But what I will say is that even though I was manager of another team, when Manchester United were in finals and all that sort of thing, no, you want them to win because it's in your blood.
Brian Robson, the health of the game is something we talk about quite often. I spoke to you about what Saudi is doing. Where will the game be in 10 years' time from now? Will we see minnow countries be more dominant, or will the centre and focus and power still belong in Europe and in the UK, or will things change? Where do you see the game going in 10 years' time?
Look, I hope we just keep improving, get better and better. And, you know, the one thing I am so pleased the Super League never come to the fore. Because for me, that is a total no. You know, like, you have to have promotion and relegation so then people can try and achieve things. I don't want to say and be connected with a club who never get relegated. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the people who are down below that and want to achieve things and get to the top?
Yeah.
If you don't have relegation and promotion, you can't achieve that. So where do those people go to? So I'm really pleased the Super League didn't happen, and I hope that explains exactly what you were asking me there, that we always need promotion and relegation. So then the people at the lower end can achieve something and go to the top end.
But even you can't guarantee the world, who, you know, there are people around the world watching this now, you cannot guarantee the audience we have that another Super League won't be proposed.
It'll be proposed, but I hope it never goes through because of exactly the reasons why I've just said. People need hope, and the need progression, and the need to achieve things. And I think within everybody in the world, you have a little bit of something of that in your body, that you want to achieve something. And so if there's no hope of of achieving something and making better of yourself, then you go, oh, well, do I just give up here? No, I don't think so.
I want to link you up with someone we have on our expert panel on our program tonight, if I may, Brian, because we've got someone by the name of Mara Watts, who's a former Matilda, but also has trained and coached. She's a powerhouse in coaching in this country and has trained 25 Matildas in her time. And I thought that she may have a question. I'm sorry to put you on the spot,
No, that's okay.
Mara, but the great Brian Robson is at your disposal.
Oh, look, I find it interesting. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Mara. Yeah, nice to see you.
Lovely to meet you. Look, you know, you talk about opportunity, you know, and not being able to have the opportunity to step up and to be able to give an opportunity to coach. And here in Australia, you know, I've been coaching for, 30 years. And I still don't have the opportunity to coach at the top level here in Australia. And I suppose I'm feeling like what you're talking about, you know, where there's not that opportunity to step up. So, you know, how do, you know, females in the game have those opportunities? What do we have to do, you know, on a global scale to give women the opportunity to be coaching? You know, like I was listening to a friend of mine the other day, and they were saying, I was at a coaching course to do the A licence. And he was saying, there's the first female that's going to be coaching in the Premier League in the second division over in England. And I said, well, Carolina was doing that in Italy. So how do we get women more involved in in coaching?
Well, you know what, Mara, I know exactly where you're coming from, but you know, the people who own the clubs, it's their decisions at the end of the day. And I tell you what, I go back to my career and I had for me, I thought I had 7 really successful years at Middlesbrough. And I'm thinking 3 cup finals, promotion into the Premiership, and you're thinking, right, can I actually go on now, and will one of the top 6 teams ever come in for me? Never did. And so you're thinking, well, that was my next step. That's what I wanted to achieve. It never happened. And so then you fizzle out. Now, it's whether you want to fizzle out because of circumstances with family and your lifestyle, or if you have that real passion, you've just got to keep trying and hope that an owner somewhere will go, look, I've seen their record's good. They're so passionate about what they want to achieve and what they want to do. And now, do they give you the opportunity? But I still say it is them owners who are going to do it, because, you know, I did the pro license, the A license, all those sort of things. I had to go through the process of doing all that, and you achieve everything. My biggest regret ever in my career, I got offered the England job when Terry Venables stepped down. And I said no, because I'd only had 2 years of experience in management. And I went, no, it is the biggest, worst decision I ever made. Instead, can you give me sort of the weekend to think about it, and I'll come back to you? I said no, right at that
What were you thinking? What were you thinking? You should have been dancing. The pressure, see? You go and play for your own country, but, you know, wow. Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
I know, it is. I still look back and I go, why did you do that?
Yeah, why did you do that? I don't know. If someone said to me, give me the Matildas job, I'd say, yes, thank you very much. I'll take that happily.
There you go.
I won't be taking the weekend to think about it, honey.
Now, listen, Brian, I think it's fair to say the ladies probably won't say this to you. They might be a little bit too embarrassed, but you're still a good-looking rooster. I just wonder, how are you keeping fit? Mara has been a PE teacher for 35 years as well. We're kind of wondering, how do you keep fit? How do you keep so healthy?
No, well, yeah, you know, for me, as probably a lot of people here, I do like a few beers. So I'm okay at having a few beers, but to be fair, I've never ever took drugs. I've never ever smoked. I eat healthy because football sort of educated me on what you eat and everything. So, and then I still exercise because from when I was a kid, yeah, you know, like from 4-year-old, and then you can start remembering. I always exercised, and so I still exercise now to try and keep myself fit.
It's a lesson for older people too, isn't it? You know, if you want to stay on this planet, there is a way to do that, and you've got to listen to the people who are telling you to do it.
I definitely, look, I've had loads of injuries throughout my life and all that, and you always listen to the doctors and all that because it's incredible what they can do in today's world. And so you have to listen to people like that. And if they're advising you, then you've got to take that on board.
I just want to pass one message on to you, Brian, because we spoke with Peter Reid before we got you up on the stream. I don't know why you're smiling, Brian. but
because I'm a little bit concerned about what's going to come next when it's Reedy.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did say that you were basically a lousy player and that he was better than you. So what have you got to say about that?
All I can say is everybody watch the video of Argentina beating England. And I dislocated my shoulder and Reedy went in the team for me. And when Maradona went past him, well, I'm not even sure. He could have went past him 5 times.
Yes, he didn't say you were a lousy player. I only made that up, sorry.
Honestly, he always asked me, would you have took him down? And I went, twice.
5 times.
That's a great story. Brian Robson, I can only thank you for having the time for us on this eve of our Women's World Cup. It's so important for us. And who do you think will win, seeing that you've been watching so closely? Who do you think will win this Women's World Cup?
I wouldn't write Australia off because in your own country, but I think the USA will be really difficult to beat.
The USA, previous winners.
Yeah, they've been there, done it, but they have got some very good players in the team.
Okay. Brian Robson, OBE, and all the other credits that you deserve. Thank you so much for being on the ball live.
Thank you very much. It's great to chat to everybody. Thanks very much.
Brian Robson, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. We learnt a lot in a very short space of time from a fellow who was described during his playing years as someone who didn't have confidence. He didn't care too much about what they wrote, obviously, when he was playing. And I could just imagine in a side made up of Brian Robson and Peter Reid, what great fun they would have had during those periods, even against the great Maradona and against Argentina at the same time. I want to turn to my panel, if I can. Kim Coates, I want to talk to you about Brian Robson quickly, because, you know, you were from an era that saw a little bit of Brian Robson.
Yes.
Legend is an understatement, is it what?
Definitely is. And I remember the game, watching the game too in the World Cup with Maradona, and thinking, yeah, why aren't you taking him out, guys? Come on, guys, take him out. No, but those players of that era, they're the heroes that I grew up with. Admittedly, I didn't have female football players as my heroes because there wasn't that many around. But the guys, the Manchester United, the Liverpool guys, yeah, they are all my heroes, and especially Pelé. Like most football players, Pelé was the king of football.
Yeah. I mentioned Bonita too, Brian. How do you grab this opportunity of hosting a World Cup, a Women's World Cup, and make it stick. Make the opportunity, you know, be of value to the country and to the game. That's what we've got to focus on, don't we?
Oh, well, there's two different parts to that question. One is to the country. I think in terms of brand recognition, Australia and New Zealand co-hosting is good for both countries as nations. The eyes of the world in terms of who's interested in women's football will be focused on those two countries over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So that's, and it's a fact that whenever Australia hosts an international sporting event, be it the 1956 Olympics, the 1988 Expo, the 2000 Olympics, there's always a seminal change or shift in the recognition and the credibility and reputation of Australia. That's just a fact. In terms of the game, how long do we have left? Look, I think there are a lot of, Football Australia's certainly been pumping out the PR about their legacy and the legacy that comes out of the Women's World Cup. We won't know what that legacy is really until we're able to judge it in 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years' time. And the proof will be, that will come through a number of different markers and a number of different measures. But in the meantime, I think Australia has a very proud and long history of hosting great global sporting events. We will do a great job. It will be done very well. Everyone will enjoy themselves. And then after the party's over, we've then got to make sure the game can still survive, be sustainable, and we actually build from it.
A lot of people have bought up all the tickets for Matildas, as we know. There are still some tickets for some games, but the tickets sales have been extraordinary. It's been quite amazing. And for those sort of who can't get enough of the game right now, and I've spoken to families who, you know, the kids are buying things related to the team that they're supporting, you know, their second team or their first team. You've also got a series of books, which I think is worth pointing out to people that are hitting the shelves that they can get hold of too. Yeah,
we do. And we also, this coincides with the Football Writers' Festival, which is being held in July. It's the 4th Football Writers' Festival. We've got a bevy of international journalists and authors coming from France Football, Tarek Panja from the New York Times, Philippe Auclair from France Football, Professor Jean Williams, who wrote the history of women's football. So there's a whole lot of great speakers there. But we're putting out a number of books, which includes the World Cup edition of the Encyclopedia of Matildas. It includes Green and Golden Boots with Sam Kerr on the front about Australia's overseas domestic Golden Boot winners. Mark Viduka's on the back. We have Get Your Tits Out for the Lads, which I mentioned earlier. This one, Hear Us Roar, of which this is a global competition, and gets back to an issue we discussed earlier about development of the women's game. We ran a global competition for young emerging writers to get published, because they don't often have an opportunity to be published. We had an international judging panel. We got, out of the hundreds of entries, we put 17 into this anthology, and they come from places such as Cameroon, Kenya, Congo, Brazil, Argentina, England, Germany, USA, so all over the world, 11 countries, and 4 of them are coming to the Football Writers' Festival, which I'm really delighted about. And last but not least, this book, The First Matildas, the 1975 Asian Ladies Championship, which is what the title of the tournament was that Kim and her teammates took part in 1975. It's written by Dr. Greg Downs, who's an academic, and his first book was called Dedicated Lives, and that was about pioneers of Australian women's football as well. But this one, Greg writes in a very conversational style, because it's very much an oral history where he talks to the women about what was going through in their lives at their time, how they got to the tournament, what took place at the tournament, and then just looks at the issues around the fact that that team hasn't yet been recognised as other teams have been.
I'm going to get to Sam in just a second, because Sam has plucked a few very special guests out of our audience, and we'll go to Sam in just a second. But Mara, can I just talk about the pitch, what's happening in the game? We spoke to Peter Reid about, say, Australia coming second in Group B and then maybe playing England out of the Group D. We are in what's called the Group of Death. We've got Canada there, we've got, who of course are the Olympic champions, we've got Nigeria, we've got also Ireland. How do you think the Matildas reasonably can fare?
Look, on any given day, against any of the best teams in the world, Australia can win. But whether they can win a World Cup is another story.
But we're at home.
We are at home, but, you know, anything can happen in a game of football. We all know that. We can look at a team on a piece of paper and go, yep, on that piece of paper, that is the best team in the world, right? But anything can happen in a game of football. So there's no certainty when we get there. Is it exciting? Yes, it is exciting. Have we got we have supposedly Sam Kerr, who is one of the best players in the world at the moment. But it's like when we look at England at the moment, you know, 5 weeks ago they lost 3 of their best players with ACL injuries. A lot of countries are struggling because, you know, there's teams that are not certain that they're coming because their team's going, we're having a pay dispute because we're not getting paid enough. So there's a lot of things happening in the world game at the moment. And so there is no certainty. Is it exciting? Yes. Do we want to support our Matildas? Yes, we certainly do. But how's the ball going to bounce? We never know.
Kim, how much is a home game worth to us in this competition?
From a player's perspective, a home game is always worth a lot. To get the crowd behind you, to get that extra support to lift you, to help lift you with your game, it's very important. But as Moira said, really, and I think as Peter said, it's the better team on the day. You can have the best team on a piece of paper, but it's on the day. Whether it all comes together for you on the day, whether the ball bounces the right way for you on the day, whether the crowd lifts you up enough on that day. So, yeah, the home ground is an advantage, but there's some other things there that really need to go our way.
All right, I'm going to get predictions out of all three of you, but Benita, you will have something more to say.
I wanted to add, I don't believe that our group is a group of death. And I think if we see it that way, it's just entirely wrong. Yeah. Canada, sure, they won the Olympic tournament, but they are one of the teams having a dispute over whether they'll even come here because of pay issues which have been going on for some time. They've also been through, over the past few years, a terrible a sexual abuse scandal within Canadian soccer. Yes. And the Vice President of FIFA is right in the midst of it. I don't mean he was one of the alleged abusers, I mean he knew about it and allegedly helped cover it up. Nigeria, they haven't been paid since July, and I've got this from a Nigerian journalist who's coming to the Football Writers' Festival. They haven't been paid since July. Ooh. Their American coach is part-time, and he's not even been to Nigeria since July. And then you've got Ireland, and it's the first time they've made the World Cup. So they're debutants. So to call that a group of death, I think is overreach.
Okay.
And we should do very well in our group stage, get through it. And we won't come second, we'll come first in our group, and we should make it all the way to the final.
Oh, you've made us feel all very comfortable after all of that. How good is that? That's a great feeling. I do want to go straight to Sam now, if I may, because Sam's got a couple of people. We want to go back a little bit and get back to where we're at in terms of a tribute to Raleigh Rassick. You've got 2 people who I'm sure will be interested to hear from.
2 legends, Gary Ward and Ken Wilson, both played under Raleigh Rassick. I just want to find out, what was your favourite story of Raleigh?
Well, Raleigh had massive belief. I mean, I came from West Adelaide, Hellas, with Charlie Yankos, and it was pretty much a new team. But he had this chart in the changing rooms, and before the first game of the season, he said, "Okay, this is how many points we need to win the league, and we're just going to tick it down and tick it off until such time as we can't be beaten." So it was first past the post in '87. And we had a strong squad, and we went the first 23 games of the season unbeaten. And I think that was a legend, and that was the record until Ange was at Brisbane. So for me, with Raleigh, it's just to have him there on the bench, and you're playing the game, and occasionally you look at the bench, and he's there and he's focused on it, and you know we just felt that we were unbeatable. If you know what I mean. So we were a great squad, but we had the best manager. So yeah, there's just that chart. So we couldn't wait to get into the training on Monday and Tuesday and go, how are we going on that chart? So psychologically, he had us thinking we're going to be invincible, And in '87 we were champions of the country.
And Gary, was he an innovator?
Well, very much so. I mean, when it comes to talking about the game, I mean, the psychology of, let's say, for instance, I'll give you one example. We played Sydney Olympic at Lambert Park. I got the winner in that game. The very next week, we're playing against Marconi in the Italian derby. I was at Apia, at Bosley Park, and it was sold out. And I'm on the bench. And I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, I got the winner last week. What am I doing on the bench? But he unleashed me at the right sort of time, and I went on and got the winner. Do you know what I mean? So it was, whether it's called playing with your mind or not, or just making me feel so hungry I couldn't wait to get on the park, if you know what I mean. So there was never a normal with rally. It was always what's next. So yeah, it was a great time, and I'm gonna miss him a lot.
I think you also would have trusted his decision, because he had that respect already from you.
Well, that decision to put me on the bench the next week, I didn't like at all, I've got to say.
But you would have understood later, wouldn't you, after that?
No, not really.
No. Never got the answer from him.
It's just that when I got the winner, I sort of went over to the bench and he said, well, what did you expect? I mean, so, talk about giving you the drive to sort of say, why, this is why I shouldn't be on the bench. But there was a method in that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So what can I say? Absolute legend.
That's a great story. And for you, what comes to mind?
Oh, I was very fortunate. Raleigh selected me for New South Wales to play against Dinamo Zagreb, and that was the start of a relationship that went through till he passed away. He was a dear friend, him and Deborah. But a funny story with Raleigh was, I was at Melita playing in the National League '84, and I had a bit of an injury. We were playing at Blacktown, and we had to win the game. So Raul Blanco rang Raleigh and says, look, we need to get Kenny fit. So Raleigh got the Australian team doctor to come and give me a cortisone injection. Back then, we're talking about '84, the cortisone injections were needles of this long. So I get the cortisone injection, I play in the game, and to this day, I cannot remember a minute of the game. And I'm in the dressing room after the game, and Raleigh's there, and Raul's there, and I'm looking at Raleigh, and I'm saying, Raleigh, how did I go? And he looked at me with that look, and he just said, waste of an injection. and that sums him up. His sense of humour was amazing, and as I say, he's been since that period, he's been a lifetime friend. I'll miss him very, very, very much.
Kenny Wilson, thank you very much for all of that. I have one small story I need to tell people about Raleigh. I lived in Fairfield when Raleigh coached Marconi, and there was a sports store. And because he'd moved to Fairfield to coach Marconi, he opened the store with Ray Richards. So it was called the 4R Sports World store. And it supplied everything: cricket gear, football gear, rugby league gear, rugby gear, tennis gear. So we all went into this shop. And I remember one day walking in and had to pick up my rugby league boots, which I was told had to be high tops. They had to be high boots because that's what the rest of the team wore. Raleigh Ruswick came out from behind the counter and says, no. He said, don't worry about that. I said, but my coach said this will protect my ankle from getting broken when it hits a tuft of grass. He says, rubbish, he said, that's not right. Let me introduce you to football boots. And you go and tell your rugby league players to go and wear football boots, not those silly high-top boots that you wear in rugby league. Well, I went to training with the first set of low-cut soccer boots at a rugby league game, and they all said to me, what are you doing? What are you wearing these boots for? Raleigh Ruswick said that these are the boots you've got to wear. Every player in the team by the end of the season wore the same boots. That's the sort of impact he had on just little old people like us around the Fairfield area. We've all got a connection somewhere, which is terrific. I want to get back to the ladies, if I may, and we switch our focus onto what's coming up in a few weeks' time. All very exciting. Mara, I want to ask you about why we do what Brian and Peter say we do, which is punch above our weight so prolifically, whether it's cricket, whether it's other sports. We've got such a small population a tiny population. You know, cities that we talk about, oh, we've got big populations in Sydney. People know each other. They walk into each other in the middle of the city sometimes. How do we therefore become so good at sport, and in particular football right now?
We talked about, Benita was talking about it earlier, about who we're coming up against. And I think here in Australia, and when I look at over my time in coaching, it's the players they've got to fight for what they've got.
Yeah.
So when they get there, they're still fighting because they want to be at their best because they've worked so hard to get to where they've got to. So they've got that never die attitude that they always just want to keep fighting because, from going to turning up the field where there hasn't been a change shed, where you've got to go behind a tree to get changed because there isn't any girls' change rooms, where you've had to have gone and been in a raffle to get money, where kids have relocated. When you talk about Caitlin Ford, I watched Caitlin Ford when she came up from down the coast, and she was playing in a schoolgirls competition, and Stajic, of course, scouted her and took her to Hill Sports. People make sacrifices. They change where they've lived to actually get an opportunity to play at the highest level or to get the best coaching. People relocate to get into academies or to go to a sports high school. So, I think that's why we keep performing, because it's so hard to get there. And when we talk about gender equity, fighting for that opportunity, which we have had to fight for so long for. And that's why the pioneers are so important for our history in women's football here in Australia.
That's well analysed. That is so well analysed. Yeah, absolutely. Round of applause. Kim Coates, I described Sam Kerr as like the Cathy Freeman of this tournament, the way Cathy was at the 2000 Olympic Games. So much pressure on her. As a player, you must have felt that same pressure. There's enormous pressure on Sam Kerr.
Oh, there would be. There would be so much pressure on Sam right now, because she's not only the captain of the Matildas, she's the face of the Matildas right now. So there's so much pressure being put on her. I would never have wanted that sort of pressure. I had pressure on me, yes, but most of that pressure was put on for myself because we weren't as well known and as famous as that.
But you knew you had a responsibility to your country, right?
You did. When you put on that green and gold, the first time you put on that green and gold, or the 50th time, or the 70th time, it doesn't matter. It's still the same. The pride that you feel inside, the honour that you feel about. And in relation to how Australians, and I will put New Zealand in this as well.
Yeah.
I think really it stems back, and it's going to sound strange to say this, but it stems back to the Anzacs. We are a country that has so much pride and support for each other, and it flows over onto our sporting fields.
Nice.
It flows over into the State of Origin matches. You watch how Queensland last week, it doesn't matter what sport we play. It doesn't matter whether we're male or female. It's the pride that we have in being an Australian and the honour that we have thinking about, hey, I'm doing this for my country. I'm doing this for every other girl that wants to play football. It's not just for me, it's for everybody.
Nicely said, nicely said. Love it. That has been an enduring theme, an enduring spirit in this country since that time. Benita, two quick questions. Who'll win? And very quickly, what do we got to do? We've got to grasp this opportunity, right? And people need to not let it pass, they need to grasp it.
I think you asked me that question before. Who's going to win? Germany.
Germany.
Yep.
Right.
I don't think the US will. Sorry. Why not Australia? I think we'll make the final, but I'm not sure that we'll make. But I don't think the US will. They've got something like, of their 23-person squad, they've got 12 or 13 youngsters who are just making their debut.
Babies.
So it'll be a big ask for that team.
And
to
as
have a
people, I
three-peat.
mean grasping it. We need to go to the games, pick up the last tickets and enjoy it, whether it's the USA versus Netherlands, for instance, go.
I mean, it's a party, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
it
a
is.
big party. It's
Yeah.
a circus in town.
Yeah.
If the circus is in town, you may as well go to it and enjoy it.
Exactly. I love it. I want to thank Kim Coates, Benita Mercedes, Mara Watts. Thank you very much for coming here. And round of applause. Sam, Sam Newman, thank you very much as co-host. Thank you for being here, and all the very best to you. And your brother, Matt. Good luck with MacArthur. And to our other guests. And once again, thank you, Deborah, for being here tonight. I can only say one quick thing. Harry Michaels is our skipper presenting tonight, and he has had a lot to do in other productions with the likes of Les Murray and the late Johnny Warren. And I think in many ways, Johnny and Les and Raleigh were here in spirit tonight. And I mean that seriously. They were certainly in all our minds because we expect them to be part of a presentation like that. And in many ways, I think we've done them justice talking about the state of the game and where the game is heading. I'd like to thank Harry and his team, and thank you very much for being part of this broadcast. On the Ball Live, we'll be back, no doubt, where you are. Thank you for staying up if that's what you're doing, or getting up very early around the world. And we hope that you can tune in, of course, from July 20. First at Eden Park with the Football Ferns, and then, of course, the Matildas playing that night, the 20th of July at Stadium Australia. It will be a wonderful time to be part of a great game, the World Game. This is Chris Smith. Enjoy your day, your evening. Thank you very much.